Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Welcome, family. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel. I was just getting a quick meditation in, waiting for you all to get into the room. So be a friend, tell a friend. We're going to be talking today about a business concept that often escapes us, and it's the power of building a network. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to dive into that because I want to emphasize the importance of that to us in business and in those of us that are trying to elevate in our careers and throughout society. It's got some good information. Okay, so be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll be right back after a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer. See you in a few.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Congratulations. And I'm even more excited this year to open the Elijah Muhammad House, also known as Sajdah House, up for some special tours just for you, National Training Conference attendees. We're going to be having special tours on Thursday, 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., and also on Sunday at 4 p.m. So just go to ElijahMuhammadHouse.com and register to attend. And remember, space is very limited, so we got to get there and get registered. Congratulations, and I can't wait to see you. Welcome to Chicago. Assalamu alaikum, family. We're back. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel, and I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. You just saw that video about the National Training Conference that's coming up very, very soon. Let me give y'all the exact date so that I don't mess it up here. July is popping, and I'm the kind of person I have to add the stuff to my calendar because something else will come up and pop up, and you'll be like, Sajdah, I thought you was coming to such and such, and I'm like, oh, I actually had planned on being in Dublin next week, but that trip got canceled. So let's see, where are we here? National Training Conference. The tours are private for people who are attending the National Training Conference. And I love months like this where stuff is so busy. And so it's going to actually be at the Tinley Park Convention Center, July 24th through the 27th. Okay. So when we talk about that Thursday having 2 tours, that Sunday having 2 tours, if you're attending the conference, you already know what that is. Okay. I want to talk this morning about the power of networking and what that actually means. Networking is more of a new age term, newer, because, Dr. George Fraser started the Power Networking Conference. I want to say now almost 30 years ago. But the term is starting to become all the rage. But networking and things, when you hear us talking about it takes a village and people interacting with each other, that's all been part of a network. And I want to take this morning to emphasize the importance of building a network. If you've ever spent any time around people from other cultures, whether it be, just white people in general, whether it be Indian people, Asia, Pacific Islanders, if you spent time with people in other cultures, you soon see that one advantage that they tend to have over us is that they have a very powerful network. Some of those networks are networks that are family networks. Some are religious networks. Some are community networks. Some are networks that come about because they got passed down through generation after generation. But they have networks. And what do I mean by that? For us, oftentimes, as Black people, we're in a space of rugged individualism where if we need something, we may or may not have somebody that we can call to help us. And if we do call them, they're going to shame us and embarrass us. We may or may not, if we want to go into business, have somebody that we can call on to just say, hey, I'm having a product launch and here's the event. A lot of times we don't have that. What you see in many other communities is the networking aspect of their community is very strong. So if they're looking for a job, if their child is looking for a job, most of the people that I graduated with, that I was navigating through the interview process my senior year of college, most of them, there was only a handful of us in the finance department. Most of them already knew where they were going to work. They had relationships where they knew somebody that knew somebody. So even if they went into the interview and they'll say, I did better than them, they got the job over me. In fact, about it, once I got hired at PNC, I remember going home to Omaha, and they dropped off communication with me. I didn't hear anything from them. And then I remember hearing from them, and they said, instead of going to Chicago office, you're going to have to go to the Indianapolis office. Well, when I got to Indianapolis, because I didn't want to stay in Omaha. That's where I grew up. So I wanted to be in Chicago. And I said, well, okay, I'll go to Indianapolis. That's closer. Got there and they dropped off communication. I was picking up all these odd jobs. I worked in a hotel as a waitress, which I was terrible at. This is why it's good to know things that you can and cannot do. But I could talk to people. I've always been good at interacting with people, but I couldn't get it together. I got some funny stories about that. I started doing, I did this short training in commercial insurance underwriting because commercial real estate was always important to me. Business was important to me. So while I was waiting on them to get back with me, it was about, I want to say this was in January, and the new class in public accounting doesn't start until like September. So in this 9-month period, I had a couple of jobs. I went, did the waitressing thing at night. During the day, I was doing commercial underwriting training with a company just so that I could learn that aspect of business. But in the meanwhile, I started networking. I started going to the National Association of Black Accountants. I started going to the National Black MBA Conference. I was just networking as much as I could. And I got to the point where I was getting worried and I was thinking, should I try to get a job with this insurance company? Because I'm not hearing from PNC. And so I went to I went to an event, some business mixer. This is why these things are so important. And I had learned through taking Toastmasters how to do an elevator pitch, how to speak. And I remember talking to Bill Mays, and some of you have heard this story. Bill Mays with Mays Chemical Company. He was a Black millionaire, may he rest in peace, from Indianapolis, Indiana. He also owned the Indianapolis Recorder, which is a Black newspaper. He was very close. I was getting involved with the Indiana Black Expo. And I want to say that Reverend Charles Williams introduced me because I started explaining to him what I was kind of going through and where I was in my career. He said, well, let me introduce you to somebody. So then he introduced me, I believe, to somebody that worked at Mays Chemical Company. And Bill Mays, not knowing me from a can of paint, helped me to understand the power of networking. Because I didn't necessarily come from that environment where somebody would say, oh, that's so-and-so's child. Let me hook them up. I came from a small town environment where there was a lot of competition. So people who were competitive, for example, with my parents, who were very progressive, would do things like, not assist and not a help, even if they were in the same field as I was in. So I came from that small town environment that was a lot of crabs in the barrel. So when I sat down with Reverend Charles Williams, who was the founder of the Black Expo, he also taught me networking and how to interact with people, how to launch a product, because that was also something I didn't learn in school, how to launch a product. And I launched my brand through the Indiana Black Expo. So he taught me that, and he introduced me to somebody at Mays Chemical Company. I explained to them what was going on. And I think I made a loose statement like, I said, when I graduated, I said, these white boys, I said, they knew where they was going to work. They had connections. They knew somebody that knew somebody. And I'm out here flailing. I was really frustrated. And Bill Mays, as it turned out, was the only Black company that PNC was auditing at the time. And he went to them and said, if y'all don't give her updated offer letter and make sure she's in this updated class, I'm moving my business. He didn't know me from a can of paint. And next thing you know, they called me and I was in the mix. But every major move, Allah taught me this early in my career. The rugged individualism stuff, I'm telling you, is old school. It's a slave mentality, because as a slave, you think, I got to make it on my own. Nobody can help me. Master got to think I'm all that. Where meanwhile, that's the house Negro, but meanwhile, the slaves in the field are helping and coordinating and working with each other. But once we got in the house, we don't want to talk to each other no more. So even down to how I came into the nation, how I started working for the minister and in the national secretary's office, all that was networking. But it was the networking process that kicked off my career. And then Reverend Williams started putting me in positions where I was able to speak. So he would give me an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes at an event. He would invite me to these different professional events where I'd be there with my little business cards, talking and learning how to present myself. My mom had given me a couple of suits from her collection. So I was suited and booted, and I would go in and exchange information with people, dinners, programs. And I learned the power of networking, down to when I got to the point where I met Dr. George Frazier, and he became one of my mentors, and I sit on one of his boards. I watched George help us understand the power of networking. Newsflash, people, you can't do anything by yourself, not today. In the past, you could do it because there was corporate backing and people would get all this stuff. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his beautiful prophetic mind, told us 6 or 8 of you pool your resources and go into business with one another together. So networking is critical because, and they know this in other cultures, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to know somebody who knows somebody. I was talking to a sister that used to do my hair in DC, and she's like, "Hey, what's going on with you?" And I'm telling her, and I said, "What's going on with you?" And she's I had two hairdressers in DC. One is an very artistic couple. We really talk about design stuff. And then I had another sister that I had at first who was kind of a little more hood. So you could stereotype her and put her in that hood category. She ended up giving me a phone number of a lady who she does business with, who introduced me to somebody that's a lobbyist in DC. So I'm just telling you, you never know. But we have not been taught the power of that. So I want to take a minute. We're going to look at a quick 5-minute video from Dr. George Frazier, where he is talking about the importance of networking and really just breaking it down for us to see and understand it, because I want to pull us out of our silos. See, part of our problem is we don't want to be bothered with nobody. We don't like nobody. Something's wrong with everybody. You never know who can introduce you to somebody. And if you're laser focused and your intentions are right, it don't matter if they're your best friend, if they're messy or whatever. It really doesn't matter, because you have to have the discernment to know how close to let that person in. But some of y'all are navigating and walking right past people that can literally introduce you to somebody to help launch your product, make your dreams come true, give you access to money. You just never know. So, Power Networking Conference is coming up, so you all can Google that, but I'll talk about that a little bit on the other side. But this concept of networking, and shout out to everybody who showed up at Sajdah House for our networking event that we had 2 weeks ago. We had almost 50 people on a Thursday evening. Okay. And so we're going to keep doing that so that we continue to get to know each other. But we'll talk about that again on the other side. But check out this video from Dr. Frazier.
Is most of us don't spend enough time cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Now, how do I know this? I know this through a scientific study that we commissioned the Gallup organization to do for Black people in America. We took a national survey on networking skills as compared to whites in America. We commissioned the Gallup organization to do this study, Kelvin. Now, we could have done the study ourselves. Our company was certainly capable of doing the study ourselves. But we knew, because we've been black a long time, that you would believe white people before you would believe us. So we had some white people do it. And I know you're going to believe these statistics because white people did them. But they didn't unfold or unveil anything that we didn't already know, right? We don't spend enough time cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. We spend about 60% of the time that white folks spend cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Therefore, the average black person has in their inventory about 55 to 60 relationships that they've cultivated and nurtured and can depend upon for various elements and things in their life. White people have between 130 and 140 people in their inventory of relationships that cover the breadth and depth of the needs that a particular person might need as they travel through life. So we don't spend enough time networking. We don't cultivate the 3 critical networks, probably because we don't even know what they are. No one's ever really taught us this or told us this. Not all relationships are equal. We have 3 networks that we must be working on through every passage of our life. And we get about 8 passages. Each passage is about 10 years. Let me say that differently. You're a different person at 10 than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than you were at 20. You're a different person at 40 than you were at 30. You're a different person at 50 than you were at 40. You're a different person at 60 than you were at 50. And I promise you, you will be a different person at 70 than you were at 60. You're evolving and you're growing. So we must cultivate these relationships, these 3 buckets of relationships, silos of relationships throughout every facet of our life. One is our personal network. This is our close circle of friends. These are our family members and extended family members. These are the people that cheer you on, lift you up, and hug you. Let's call this your network at home. If things are not right at home, they're going to infect every other part of your life. I promise you that. How do I know that? I've been married to the same sister for 42 years. That gives me a PhD in relationships. The second silo of relationships is what is called an operational network. These are the people that help you to get specific tasks done in life. Whether you are on the board of the NAACP or whether it's, where you're employed or where you have your own business, some volunteer organization or initiative. These are people that platoon in and out of your life through every phase and passage of your life, help you do that thing that you are doing at that time. And you're helping he or she do that thing that they're doing at that time. And they may not and probably will not be doing the same things 20 years from now as they're doing now. But you're here at this moment to serve them and to help them. You're sort of, God has put you in their life. So that's your operational network. It's different than your personal network. Serves a different role. The final network is your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that are where you want to be. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that can be your mentors, elders, coaches. Smart networkers understand that networking looks like this. Someone is pulling you. and you must always be pulling someone. And the minute you break that connection in either direction, you have a hole in your net. And you know what happens when a fisherman gets a hold of his net? The fish get through too many holes, and the whole infrastructure of support breaks down. Those are the three networks that you have to work on by spending somewhere between 12 to 15 hours a week. There's a Harvard study that say successful people spend about 16 to 17% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. Effective people, but very successful people, people at the top rungs of every ladder in America, spend 54% of their time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships. I spend more than 60% of my time working on cultivating, nurturing, and building relationships at work, at home, and in the community. So this networking thing is not some little trite thing, strategy, tactic. Networking is a way in which we live. We will succeed when we're able to manage our relationships, effectively utilize our emotional intelligence, and understand that your EQ will ultimately be more important than your IQ. Your emotional intelligence is one's ability to manage the 5 most important emotions that we have and use the management of those emotions in the cultivating, nurturing, and the building of relationships with other people.
All right. 54% working and cultivating relationships. Dr. Frazier said he spends more than that. That's how important it is. Supporting other people, attending other people's events, somebody call you for a favor, seeing what you could do to be there for them, be supportive, all of that kind of stuff is very, very important. I probably spend somewhere between 50 to 60% working on cultivating relationships, because it's very important that if something happens, you got somebody you can pick up the phone and call. You can find some support. One of the biggest hindrances I know for myself, with as entrepreneurial and as smart as I am, not having the right networks have held me back in my sojourn in business, or not having the right networks, not having somebody to call. Life is like this. It's going to go up and down. What we've been taught as Black professionals, especially those of us that are spiritual, those of us that are Muslims and Christians, we've been taught to kind of ride the middle. So don't rock the boat. Don't do too much. Don't take too much risk. And don't get yourself into a situation where you need help. Because the minute you need help, then we look at you as a failure. Other communities don't look at it like that. They go into business, they push the envelope. The minute they need help, they have other people that can converge onto them, somebody they can call, some favor they can call in, some family relationship, somebody that they know to give them information, resources. And it's not looked down upon the minute you need help. But for us, we start to devalue one another once help is needed. But that's not how it is in the community. You have business people in the broader community who have built up multi-millions of dollars worth of businesses, almost $1 billion worth of businesses. One in particular that's very famous, filed bankruptcy several times, and people in their community still see that person as successful. Prime example of that. But in our community, if you open a business and then all of a sudden you need a little cash infusion, then the bank make you feel like you're a criminal, like something's wrong with you. Well, no, you don't have the credit, and no, you don't have the sales, and no, we're not going to give you a line of credit. And then your own people, when you're struggling, make it look like, oh yeah, he used to be all of that, or the restaurant used to be good, or she used to be da da da, but now he needs help with making payroll. See, we look down on that kind of thing and we devalue one another. But as long as you are pushing the envelope, as long as you are looking to elevate and evolve, you're going to always be in a position where you have to receive or seek assistance. And even if other people are tripping on you because of that, you can't trip on yourself because of that. Because again, what we're taught to do is to just stay here, don't trust nobody, don't be around people, be comfortable, just go to work, come home, be with your own little circle of people. That is oftentimes what is preventing us from advancing as a people. That's what's preventing us from making those millions of dollars that we desire to make and all of this stuff. It's also what gets us in these weird, situations as entrepreneurs. Because most of the time, we become millionaires and billionaires through partnerships. And that's fine. It's a bridge that we have to cross over to fill that gap, to close the gap. So if it means doing a partnership and that partnerships puts you in a position where now you're making millions, that's fine. But in that process, you have to figure out how to acquire some ownership and shift into ownership so that you can own and become a millionaire through ownership, or a billionaire through ownership instead of partnerships. Because what happens oftentimes with partnerships, one of the biggest strategic things that people in other communities do to us is they know we don't have a lot of support. They know that our people, that we're very fickle with one another. So they know if they withdraw the partnership and drop a few things out there about you in the press, because remember, they studying you so that they know your weaknesses, whatever fetishes you got, whatever you got going on with you that ain't all the way right, studying you, and they know you, and they keeping that close to their vest. And then the minute that they want to make you vulnerable, either to manipulate you into doing something that you may not want to do, to shut you up, to further control you, they know that if they drop certain things out there in the public that we are so insecure and judgmental, we're going to be like, don't mess with so-and-so. I heard this or that about them. And they know that our networks and our groups of people that are around us are weak. They know we don't have a safety net. So once they pull their partnership, they know we don't have anybody that we can go to and say, hey, I want to do a partnership with you. Or to be able to say, hey, I've amassed a certain amount of wealth. Now let me move into some cooperative economic activities so that I can make other millionaires who will then turn around and be loyal to me, and we can barter. We can do things, across business lines. They know that relationships is where we're weak. And so it's one of those areas that we really, really have to work on, is relationships. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. In 1975, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed, there were a lot of weak relationships, a lot of rugged individualism that prevented people from leaning on one another and propping each other up. It was the weakness in the relationships. We stopped shopping at the businesses. See, that relationship should be strong anyway. If I have a manufacturing company, you should be doing business with me regardless. It shouldn't matter who's there or not. I hope you all understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to be very careful with this, but it's the weakness in relationships that really impacted us and has impacted us as Black people in business for years. So we get attacked when we go into business. We get attacked when we encroach upon an industry that maybe we aren't traditionally in. We get attacked, and then it's those relationships that they know that we don't always have. And I will tell you, I've been very blessed when it comes to relationships, and I'm constantly pushing the envelope. So relationships have to get bigger and more impactful, but I've been very, very blessed when it comes to relationships. Even when we were attacked with the development of the Elijah Muhammad House Museum, it was a network that we were able to call upon to say, hey, you got us. And then that influenced other people. And, and then the rest is history. But working on those networks, whenever you find yourself stuck in your business, don't get excited because you got 10 or 11 new customers or 5 or 6 new customers. Keep working and building your network. And when Dr. Fraser talks about 54% of the time working and cultivating relationships, excuse my language on this, it doesn't mean be a whore. So some of us think it means, let me just find a bunch of people that know me. Let me hook up with this millionaire. No, it's cultivating the relationships that are already there and already around you. If I'm in your circle and we are in a close relationship, you can lay your head on the pillow at night and know Sajdah got me. Sajdah got me. Even if you do something wrong, I may come tell you about yourself, but we're going to come try to help figure out how to make you whole again. So that's what they mean by cultivating. You want to meet new people, but then there are also existing relationships that you want to cultivate. And believe it or not, that one person that is close to you, that you can make sure that they know that you got their back and they got yours, can be much more valuable than having 1,000 people in a so-called network where you're taking more of a whorish approach. Like, let me go see what I can get up out of this. Networking is not always, let me build a relationship with you. It could be just, let me introduce my product and service to you. So knowing how to have an elevator pitch, right? You might get on the elevator with somebody and you got 10 seconds to say who you are, what you do, and what you want. Do you have that already in your mind? You might be somewhere with somebody and you got 30 seconds to say who you are, what you do, and what you want. You got to have that ready. And you'd be surprised at when you go into an environment and you got the right energy, how many people you meet that will be trying to connect you with somebody. You'd be surprised. Sometimes older relationships, people that you haven't seen in forever. I think around Savior's Day, our beloved sister Claudette Marie Muhammad, who for years was the National Protocol Director for the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I ran into her and she immediately started telling me, I know this person, I know that person, I know this person, I know that person. She introduced me to key people in the historic preservation and museum space, people whose names I would see, the director of this, the president of that, this liaison. Just making those introductions, and nothing may or may not come of those relationships, but putting my name and what I'm working on in front of other people in the industry, you'd be surprised at how far that goes. That's an example. Dr. Fraser does that. I think oftentimes when you've been in business and you've been around for a long time, you get the importance of doing that. Or if you got a lot of experience, you get the importance of doing that. You understand it. Like, hey, let me introduce you to this person. Let me tell this person about your business. Nothing may not come of it right now, but a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, or somebody may be talking about you in rooms that you're not in. And then next thing you know, there's somebody who's there who say, no, I know of her through a good friend of mine, and I vote for her. So you'd be surprised. Okay. I see you all in the chat. Tyrone H. Muhammad says, ASA Sister Wendy, I am in concert with you and the message 100% do for self enterprises. That's exactly right. It's all about the networking. And let me tell you something. What comes with that is a certain amount of loyalty. So, especially for us as members of a community that oftentimes is seen as different, is hated upon, is discriminated against. And we are some of the most loyal, smartest, investment-worthy people on the planet. I will make that statement. I'm talking about those of us as members of the Nation of Islam that are doing for self. And I'm not making a comparison of those who are doing for self or not, but talking about just in business. If you are looking for business people to invest in who are going to have integrity, we may not be perfect, but our integrity levels are going to be way higher than that ratchet person that you investing in, that you're doing business with. You're talking about morality, having a certain level of reliability, investment worthiness, Black excellence. It's us. We just oftentimes need an opportunity, and it's incumbent upon us when we get that opportunity to do right by that opportunity. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sister Amina says, yes, community is everything. It takes a village, not only to raise a child, but it takes a village as well to raise a business. See, as a business person, you have to mother and birth that business, and it takes a village. It takes a village. I tell people that in my network all the time, look, if you want me to come speak, you just want me to jump on the call just to have some support on there, you just let me know. I'm there. If I got money, I can support and donate. What you need, let's do it. Sister Marva said, thank you for speaking on the nuances of networking and its impact. Yes, it's very, very important. You will be surprised at who you will meet. Brother Tyrone said, the peace, the indoctrination of self-hate through our painful journey of slavery and being taught to eat the wrong foods is currently hindering us big time in business. Self-improvement through the teachings is the remedy. Self-improvement is critical. It's this networking thing. Sister Marva said the nuances of networking and its impact. Yes, it's the nuances of it, because we just think it don't matter. I just got it. If somebody just give me some money, that's all we be focused on. If somebody just give me some money, then I can get this business off the ground. Guess what? Somebody can give you some money. Somebody can come and give you $50,000 today, $100,000 today, $1 million today, and get your business up, going, and off the ground. And if you don't have the right network, ain't nobody coming. If you have not spent time cultivating and introducing yourself. I'll give you an example. I started blogging in 2005. This is back when we had MySpace. And I used to blog for people in the entertainment industry to understand business. And then as things evolved, there was a couple of different spaces. We got on Facebook and stuff. So on Facebook, back then, everybody was using Facebook to just introduce themselves to people or have reunions and stuff like that. I started using Facebook way before Oprah started doing it. There was a girl who lived in my building who was a producer for the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I believe they jacked me on this. And it's okay. I started putting quotes out there because I started thinking about the power of the law of attraction. And I said, if I get on here and I'm complaining and I got 1 million people who are watching me, then that's 1 million eyes and 1 million rays in which my complaining is being multiplied. So all I'm doing is magnifying the problem that I have. And then, so I said, so I'm going to start putting positive quotes and reinforcement and using it to help people. And every day I would put a quote out on Facebook. And then Oprah started doing it, and then it got really popular and people started sending around little memes with quotes and stuff like that. But I was doing that before anybody was doing it. And I did it because I said, if I put something negative out here, if 1 million people see it, it's being magnified 1 million times. If I put something positive out here, 1 million people will see it and it's being magnified 1 million times. So I then started doing blog talk radio. It wasn't video, where I was interviewing people and people were tuning in. And I just was using that to learn and to push the envelope from a business standpoint. I met so many business people. Then I went on to radio in DC. I was on the radio. And then I started doing the videos like this. And you will be surprised at how many people I've met just from doing this. How many of you all that I've interacted with, that we've been able to connect. So using a talent and a skill that I have to be able to bring together those 6 or 8 people, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, that can come together and go into business with one another. And he didn't tell us 6 or 8 people get together and go to the mosque and get the mosque to open up a business for us. He didn't say that. He didn't say 6 or 8 people get together and go to the church and get the church to open a business for us. He didn't say 6 or 8 people get together and go to the government and get the government to open up a business for us. He says 6 or 8 of us to get together and go into business for ourselves. He didn't say seek permission. None of that. It's about us. Now that we have what we all believe, whether we are Muslim, Christian, or whatever, we believe that we got some information, some healing, some access to some self-improvement that's going to put us on that next level. As brother Tyrone just said, we believe that we've got supreme wisdom that's going to help change your life overnight. Those of us who have been a part of that teaching, our duty now is to teach and train those that don't have it, to be examples, to share, to be open. That's how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad moved. Do you know how many people came to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asking for help with their business, and he helped them? Asking for help with their life, whether it was a divorce, a mortgage that needed to be paid off, and he helped them. I want you to think about that. How many times his house literally was a revolving door of people coming there either to make reports and make donations and give him gifts, but also to get gifts from him. I don't know if you all realize that. The amount of people that were supported and the way, sorry about that, the way this concept was demonstrated was an example and a template for us. Going into business, doing business with ourselves. See, business, as the minister teaches us, is the activity of life. And that activity of life has to be supported with a strong network of people, of opportunities, of people who will just have your back. So I'll make sure I covered all these points on networking. The nuances, as Sister Marva said. What can networking do? Help you with advancing your career, give you access to opportunities, can give you emotional support, mentorship and guidance. See, if you have the right network you're working on, you're going to be slowly moving out of survivor mode. And whenever you are in the survival space, you are just sitting in fight or flight, which is a dangerous place, not only for your health, but for your career. Do you know that when you are in fight or flight, that your blood begins to navigate away from your muscles and away from your organs and into your muscles so that you can run, jump, escape. Your adrenaline flows, which is a hormone. Your hormones change. This is why a lot of us that are stressed out, we got high cortisol levels. I know myself personally, if I go through a certain amount of stress, I see myself get puffy and stressed out and worried, and I can feel the hormone changes. But that's because you're in fight or flight when you always feel like you got to survive. When you start to build your network, you can degree by degree start to peel off some of that. Even if it's an illusion, you don't always have to be living in that fight or flight space. You don't have to be sacrificing your bodily organs to make sure your muscles are strong. This is why a lot of us end up with high blood pressure and go into kidney dialysis, and our liver's not functioning properly, and our heart's not functioning properly, and our pancreas is not functioning properly. Why? Because we're always in fight or flight, and it's not getting enough blood flow, and it's not getting the hormones that it needs in order to sustain those organs, because the blood and the hormones are all going to the muscle because your brain thinks it has to save you, that you got to run, jump, fly away, get away. Same thing happens in life, in business, metaphysically. If all your resources are going towards surviving, then there are certain aspects of your business that are going to suffer. And building your network can help with that. Even if you wake up in the morning and you know that you just got a referral from somebody, or you got somebody you can call to ask for advice who might point you in the right direction, that's going to calm you down, as opposed to if you think you got to figure it out yourself. There's nothing wrong with needing help, and stop demonizing one another when the person needs help. If somebody calls you and they need help, stop demonizing that. Stop making that a bad thing. They don't do that in other cultures. They don't do that. But we do that, so it puts people on an island. And in our families, we're all just on a little island. Don't want nobody to know nothing. Don't want to help each other. We have to come together and learn to support one another. There's not one millionaire or billionaire that hasn't had a family member, a friend, or somebody in their community that helped them out, whether it was financing. Go back and read Dennis Kimbrough's book, where he interviewed all these millionaires, and they'll tell you how they got their start. I got $1 million from my cousin. I got $10,000 from my grandmother. I got financing with my auntie. She helped me. She went on my loan. All of that, they will all tell you that. But we have to get out of this rugged individualism because we're so worried about somebody taking something from us. If you think that giving somebody some help one time is going to devalue you, then you got to work on yourself, because at some point you're going to need some help. And this ain't got nothing to do with you. It has to do with the enemy that we're facing. They know you and I ain't got no resources. They know if they come and get you and trump up charges and put you in jail, that ain't nobody coming to see you. They know this. They know that if they come and take your relation, they know you have no relationship. So if they come and take your business from you, or cut you off with a supplier, or try to mess with your loan or something, they looking at it like that, he ain't got nobody. So what we're going to do is, okay, they need flour in order to make, they need this certain kind of flour in order to make the bread in their bakery. Well, we're going to cut them off from the supplier. They know we don't have relationships that are going to support us to help us get another supplier or to help us even renegotiate with that current supplier. They know these things. And the way we defy this enemy is by supporting one another, being there for one another. The reason why sometimes people double down on their behaviors is because they get hurt. Sometimes somebody might just make a mistake. We're all charting new territory that we haven't been in. And if I have an opportunity to help somebody who's building a legacy for myself, my family, my people, then I'm going to support it. Because how much legacy are we going to build just getting up, going to work every day? So we got to invest in something. We got to help somebody. Somebody got to do it. Somebody got to take the sacrifice. Stop worrying about stressing. Stop worrying about how many heart attacks you're going to have, how many strokes you're going to have. Let me tell you something. Let me give you a hint. Oftentimes, the reason why people emotionally go into a space where they set up the conditions in their body for heart attacks, strokes, and aneurysm is the fact that they lack love and companionship in their life. So everything they go through gets magnified because they don't have anybody else that they feel can support them or help them through a situation. People need help, and it's okay. Somebody got to take the sacrifice. My nephew called me, say, I need help moving. I'm on the plane. I'm gone. Let's go. What we need, what we got to do. What you need. If somebody in my family, a friend of mine, I got friends on the chat. If they need me, I'm right there. Because somebody got to help. Somebody got to help. But we are so worried about that image and worried about somebody taking something from you. Can't nobody take nothing from you that you don't have. And if you got so much that you worry somebody going to mess it up, put some boundaries around it. I was talking to a cousin of mine the other day, and she has some relatives on her side of the family that are going through some challenges. And I said, help, but just guard your personal space. But somebody got to help. And that's the difference between us and another community. That's why we end up homeless. That's why we end up sick. That's why we end up in nursing homes by ourselves with nobody helping us. That's why we need the government assistance, because of the lack of relationships. All right. I even propose having organizations. I had mentioned this on the Power Networking Conference board, where you got single people on the board who are building empires. And when they pass away, what happens to the money? What happens to the properties? Maybe the organization can say, or the church or your networking group can say, you know what, if brother so-and-so who has amassed this $10 million empire that doesn't necessarily have any family, we can take over his business when he leaves. This is just the ways in which networking can work. But we got to get out of this rugged individualism. Understand that you don't have to be all or nothing. You can help a little bit. You can offer something. I'm not saying bring the people in your home. I'm not saying give them all your money. But somebody got to help. All right. Let's see what we say. Let's see. Sister, I'm going to say, yes, ma'am. Community and networking helped me replace my salary, and I'm able to work for myself now. We can't do it alone. You cannot do anything by yourself. If you think you're going to stay in your house and just be safe and check all the boxes, guess what? This is how old school that is. 20, 30 years ago, that may have worked. You know why it may have worked? Because your job may have lasted for 30 years. Gone are the days where people working at companies 30, 40, 50 years. So while you in your house trying to be safe and don't want to talk to nobody because you're scared somebody gonna take something from you, then all of a sudden your company closes. The average tenure at a business now, at a company now, is 3 to 5 years. That's not the average. That's about the longest that people tend to last in these businesses, because there's layoffs, there's mergers, there's all kind of acquisitions. It's not like that where back in the day your family member used to work at GM or the Kraft Foods or somewhere, and they worked there from 20 years old to retirement. And there were all these opportunities within the organization. You started off in the management trainee program. You got promoted. You went from this department. You bid on that project. You bid on this job. That's very rare today. Very rare today. So that person that worked at that company that was the stabilizing force in their life, they could afford to say, I'm just a box checker. I'm going to be safe. I don't want to be bothered with nobody, because they had that to rely on. We don't have that today. A lot of us are forced into business through duress. Why? Because we lost our job. And now we got to figure out what else we're going to do. We need 2, 3 incomes. Some of you might want to be able to act like that from 3 to 5 years, but all of a sudden that company you working for, that startup company, the venture capital goes away and they close. Look how many businesses open and close. When I drive down neighborhoods that I used to be in or live in, or when I used to sell real estate, I remember that used to be a so-and-so, and that used to be a so-and-so. Oh, what's that now? I remember when Pier 1 was over there. So all those employees that are working for these different companies, I used to love Pier 1. Is it Pier 1? Yeah, Pier 1. I used to love Pier 1. I had the little credit card and everything. Used to go in there and get little stuff. Well, it's closed. I knew somebody who was a regional manager for them. I had to go find a job. Your network is important, because nowadays, the way the economy moves, you never know. And this sister's on here saying that she had networking that helped her to replace her salary, and now she's able to work for herself. Congratulations, sis. But Tyrone says, our unity is our greatest strength. Even being married has proven to make people wealthier than being single. Yep, that's right. Because it's something about, it's a metaphysical thing, right? Because it's something about having that support, having that protection, having that love that calms your central nervous system and raises your vibration. If you got a loving and peaceful environment, and now you can access more income. And then sometimes 2 incomes working together is good, is better. So it all just kind of depends on what's going on in your household. But that makes sense that if you got somebody there that got your back and you all are both working towards a common goal together, you got 2 incomes you putting together. If you look at it this way, if you got 3 incomes and he got 3 incomes, now you got 6 incomes that are coming together. I'm just saying. All right. Last comment before we go. Marvelous Marva says, this gives perspective when the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. Yeah. Yeah. Not only, and I've talked about this, Sister Marva, on this podcast about the information network and how nowadays unity is even more powerful than it was in the past, because now we live in an information-based economy where everything is based on algorithms. So if we decide that we're going to all focus on a certain thing, we're going to impact an economy that is based on the data. See, they're making moves based on data. So companies get data in. That's why data analytics is so important. They get data in and they make a decision. Okay, this product will work in this company. In this neighborhood, we can open a Starbucks over here. Oh, no, this is more of a Dunkin' Donuts neighborhood. Or no, this grocery store needs to carry these products. That's all based on data. And so when we impact that data with our unity, it's going to change the way people move and the way they think. Unity is, you can look at it from a political standpoint, from a business standpoint. It's all about the information. So just us uniting with one another. As I mentioned, when we're talking about business warfare, anybody looking at you, and you may say, well, I ain't got into it with nobody that would be at war with me. You don't have to. If you are, let's say you're in a regulated industry and you have a license, then the data of what you sell and what you do, your socioeconomics, who you are, where you live, what color you are, that data flows up to that regulatory industry, that regulatory body. And if they want to say, you know what, I want to make sure that brother so-and-so with this type of license only makes X amount of dollars a year, they can do that. And if you get too bold, they know they can pull relationships from you. You ain't got to do nothing. I'm telling y'all, as a business developer, I've seen this before. So they can say, if we pull back on supplies, or we pull back on inventory, or we pull back on certain things, or we figure out a way to intervene and make it difficult for him or her to really get to the big money, to the big customers. This is done in real estate all the time. You have real estate agents who like, man, my average real estate sale is $250,000 a year, or financial advisors who only can get to people who making at the most making $100,000 a year. They're not getting to the $500,000 and $600,000 a year people. They're not selling the $10 million properties or the $2 million properties. That's all done behind the scenes. And they know, and it's easily done to us because we don't always have a network. So if we got $1 million house, we don't automatically say, let me give this listing to a Black person. If we're making $400,000 a year, we don't automatically say, let me get my insurance from a Black insurance person. See, these decisions impact a whole lot. And all the algorithms are based on the fact that they know that we have weak relationships. So my point today is for us to work on and build our relationships with one another. How much are we supporting one another? How much are we there for one another? And you may say, I don't have time for no big old network. You may not. But what can you do for somebody that's in your network right now? Somebody that's in your network, somebody that you're friends with, somebody you're related to that needs some help. What can you do? Sister Amina says, data is so important now. It's said if you can't measure it, you can't improve it or control it. Yeah. Okay, family. Make sure you go register for tours. If you're coming to the National Training Conference, there's private tours for those attending the National Training Conference, Thursday, 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., Sunday at 4 p.m. Support the Sajdah Network. I'm working on, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. We have a first episode of our series on the Messenger's Residence that we are working on finding space and how we're going to launch that. And I'm leaning towards doing something online where we all around the world can look at it and see it. And so that's where I'm leaning. And we may do something in person, but it's broadcast globally. Okay. So when we put that out there, I'm gonna need y'all spreading the word. We need everybody to come on, take a look at that first episode. It's called The Messenger's Footsteps. We really want it to be impactful. So we're just working on a little small studio space, or whether or not we can do it at the house, just kind of figuring that out as well. So stay tuned for that. We got some shows coming up next week. And if you stay close, make sure you're liking and subscribing, and we will get that out to you. Go to ElijahMuhammadHouse.com. Please support. Please donate. Your sister needs the unity and the support right now. We are staring the finish line in the face. It's like right there. And this last little bit of money has been more of a challenge for us than not. But those of you who want to know more, who want to become sponsors, we got a lot of naysayers and enemies out here, so I'm not going to make a lot of information public. But if you're serious, send me an email, sajdahhouse@gmail.com. If you know somebody that's serious about becoming a sponsor, supporting, investing, let us know. Okay. I'm trying to think. Anything else? I don't think so. Just stay close, stay tuned, and we will see you all, inshallah, very soon. Don't go anywhere. Check this out.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible